Over the last few videos, we've been talking about play, more specifically, why I believe play isn't just playing. And the more I think about it, the more I wonder if we've started underestimating one of the most powerful ways children learn. What if play isn't taking children away from learning? What if play is the learning? Welcome back to the Family Daycare Diaries. If you've been following along this week, you'll know we've been talking about why play isn't just playing. Why I don't believe every activity needs a learning outcome attached to it, and why children don't need to be busy every minute of the day. Today I wanted to bring those conversations together because after years of working with children, I've come to realise that play isn't simply something children do while they're waiting to learn. In many ways, play is how they learn best. Can I ask you a question? When you think back to your own childhood, what do you remember? Was it the structured activities, or was it the adventures and the games that you made up? The afternoons spent outside and the little moments that seemed so ordinary at that time. I know what I remembered. If you had asked me years ago what great early childhood education looked like, I probably would have talked about having lots of planned activities, lots of resources, and making sure children were constantly engaged. I genuinely believed that if children were busy every minute of the day, then I was doing a good job. But somewhere along the way, my thinking began to change. It wasn't one big moment that changed everything. It happened slowly. It happened through watching children, through sitting beside them instead of directing them, through following their ideas instead of always leading them, and especially through opening my own family daycare, where I had the opportunity to slow down and really observe what children were doing when they were simply allowed to play. One phrase I've heard countless times over the years is, "They're just playing." And I completely understand why people say that, because as an adult, play can look very simple. It can look like digging in the dirt, building with blocks, dressing up, collecting sticks, or making endless cups of pretend tea. But the longer I've worked with children, the more I've realised they're never just playing. When children are playing, they're making decisions, solving problems, communicating with one another, and testing their ideas. They're learning how to negotiate, how to cooperate, how to use turns, and how to use their imaginations. The beautiful thing is they don't even realise they're learning because they're completely immersed in play itself. They're not trying to achieve an outcome, they're simply following their curiosity. And I think that's when some of the richest learning happens. A perfect example of this happened one afternoon in our mud kitchen. The children spent nearly an hour running what they decided was a little cafe. I was served more cups of tea and coffee than I could possibly drink, and apparently mine came with extra chocolate that day. Watching them was fascinating because no one had told them how to make a cafe. Nobody handed them a script or explained what to do next. They remembered experiences they had in real cafes. They negotiated whose turn it was to make the drinks, they welcomed customers, and together they created this whole little world. To someone walking past, it probably looked like the children making mud and pretending to pour tea. To me, it was communication, imagination, cooperation, problem solving, and confidence, all developing naturally through play. The same thing happens when we're outside. People often ask me why we spend so much time on excursions or at parks. And honestly, the answer is really simple. Outside children naturally know how to play. A stick becomes a fishing rod, a fallen log becomes a balance beam, a pile of leaves becomes a volcano, a bug becomes the most exciting discovery of the entire day. Nature doesn't tell children how they're supposed to play. It simply gives them the space to wander, explore, and create their own ideas. I think that's one of the greatest gifts the outdoors gives us. One of the biggest lessons that children have taught me is that they don't always need more. They don't always need another activity, another toy, another resource, or another place to be. Sometimes what they need most is more time. Time to become deeply engaged in their ideas, time to change their minds, time to create something completely unexpected. Watching children has reminded me that we don't always need more. We don't always need another activity, another resource, or another place to be. Sometimes we simply need to slow down. And honestly, I think that's one of the greatest lessons children have ever taught me. I also don't think we've started questioning the value of play because we don't care about children. I actually think it's the complete opposite. Parents care deeply, educators care deeply. We all want to give children the very best start in life, and because we care so much, we sometimes put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make every moment count. We want to prepare children for school, for friendships, for life, and for the future. Those things are all important, and I'm currently not saying they aren't. But somewhere along the way, I think we've started believing that learning only counts when it looks like learning. I also think we've become a little uncomfortable with children simply playing. We feel we need to explain the learning, justify the play, or turn every experience into a lesson. But I often wonder, who are we doing that for? Because children aren't asking us to provide their learning. They don't stop halfway through building a cubby house and ask, what learning outcome am I working towards today? They don't make pretend coffee in the mud kitchen, wondering if they've discovered communication skills. They're simply playing. They're completely absorbed in the moment. And maybe that's something we've forgotten as adults. We tend to measure success by what can be seen, counted, or achieved. Children measure success very differently. If they built a cubby, discovered a bug, collected a pocket of sticks, or served 20 pretend coffees in the mud kitchen, they'd probably tell you that they had the best day ever. And honestly, not everything valuable has to be measurable. When I think back to my own childhood, I don't remember sitting at a table, completing activities, or worrying about whether I was learning enough. I remember riding my bike until the streetlights came on, building cubbies, making up games with friends, being outside for hours, and doing cartwheels in the backyard. Those memories have stayed with me for all of these years. Not just because someone carefully planned them, but because they gave me the freedom to imagine, explore, and simply enjoy being a child. And that's exactly what I hope to give the children in my care. Not a childhood that's rushed from one activity to the next, but one that's filled with wonder, curiosity, adventure, and play. Because at the end of the day, children don't need every moment to be educational. They need every moment to be meaningful. The beautiful thing about play is that children don't wake up wondering what they're going to learn today. They wake up wondering what they're going to play. And maybe that's exactly why they learn so much. They're focused on the experience. They're fully present. They're curious. They're engaged. They're wondering. I've learnt that play isn't something we fit around learning. Play is the learning. And if there's one thing that children have taught me over the years, it's this. When we trust play, we trust children. Anyway, that's today's diary entry. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today. I'd genuinely love to know, what's your favourite childhood memory? Was it something that was carefully planned, or was it one of those simple everyday moments that has stayed with you for all of these years? I'd love to read your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next diary entry. Until then, take it slow, embrace play, and don't forget to look at the magic in the everyday.